Let's see. Paymon's back. All right, hey Paymon, are you on video there?
I'm here.
All right, there we go. Now we got you back, man. All right, cool. All right, looks like we've got our numbers, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. All right, so thank you for joining us today. This is the Empty Nester's Guide to Downsizing in SoCal or Fleeing for Cheaper Pastures. So you can kind of imagine what that's about, and I'm sure you saw the notes as we sent out some emails and text messages. If you are here, then you probably have a lot of equity in your home. You've probably lived there for a while. Kids are probably either moved out of the house or getting close to it. And you're looking at, hey, what do I do with this equity? Do I downsize? Do I move? What makes sense? I know a lot of people that have been thinking of downsizing haven't been doing it because they feel like the market's just not right. We're here to kind of inform you, but not maybe not push you in any direction, but just give you the information today. So we're going to go over who we are, why we can help, who this webinar is for, today's market, why rates should not matter to you, some tax strategies. We're going to go through some examples on the numbers for kind of typical folks that live in San Diego that have owned their homes for a while. We'll talk about some next steps, and then we'll go over our free offer for attending today, which some of you may or may not already be utilizing. Um, our goal today, we're a small real estate firm. There's only a few agents, and our goal is essentially out of this is to give you the information to help you make a decision on what you want to do with your home and your equity. Whether that is stay put, whether that is wait, whether that is sell today, downsize, buy something smaller in San Diego, move towards the beach, get the heck out of California and go to cheaper pastures. It's really up to you what you want to do, but we're just here to give you the information to help that process easier and so that you kind of know how you can make an informed decision. So, who am I? Professional career. I was a Marine for 2 enlistments. I was a systems engineer in the financial industry for a little while, and then I went moved into manager, director level in IT. Decided didn't really like doing that, so I went into tech sales for a little more than 20 years. It was at companies like Hitachi, Pure, Dell. But more importantly, how's that apply to real estate? Some of it does. The sales part definitely does. Marketing definitely does. Dealing with and helping clients to get the things they want to do definitely all is very applicable. I've also been a real estate investor since 2002. So I own 19 units in 3 different states. I do things like multifamily, short-term rentals, mid-term rentals, long-term as well, and I've done some new construction. I've been a realtor since 2018. My biggest goal is to help other people build wealth for their families, making sound real estate investments, while also continuing to build my own family's wealth. Right? I'm married to my wife Paulina. I've got 3 kids. Aiden's off at UCSB. Lisa's starting San Marcos here very shortly, and Colin will be back to high school here for his senior year, playing football at Westview later this week. One thing you'll find about me and introduce Paymon here, he's one of our agents that at Abundant Path Homes. We are very responsive, right? We are going to get back to you. You're not going to feel like you're in a black hole, and we get things done, right? If there's one thing that my background has given me and Paymon's background has given him, is that if you don't get things done for your clients, you don't keep your clients. They don't come back to you, and it's very important for us to keep our clients and build long-term relationships. Little legal disclaimer. So there's going to be a lot of information in this about taxes, financial stuff. We are not financial planners. We are not CPAs. We are not tax professionals. You should talk to your CPA, your tax professional, and how any of this applies to your specific situation. We're going to give examples. They might apply to you, they might not, but please check with your own CPA or whoever does your taxes to make sure that you're in compliance when you decide to sell your home and if you take any of our advice. We need to talk about the market a little bit before we get started. The reason why is because the market does matter. If you're looking to sell your home in San Diego, market's going to matter. The market is a little different in San Diego. A lot of people like to say, is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? Is it a kind of neutral market? The simplest answer is it really depends in this county, right? For townhouses and condos, things are moving pretty slow right now for sellers. It's really kind of a buyer's environment throughout most of the county. There are some highly sought after areas where they're moving quicker, things towards the beach and whatnot. In homes in highly sought after areas, if you're a seller, it's a seller's market. Detached homes and sought after areas has been a little less sought after areas has been a little more balanced. And I'm sorry, yeah, I should have said that should be attached homes. Detached homes in less sought after areas have been a little bit more of a buyer's market, or and then interest rates. We're going to talk a little bit more about interest rates on the next slide, but I did want to go over it real quick. Historically, they are still low. A lot of people don't believe that, especially the younger generation. Most of you are the older generation. You're my age, or you're older, or you're somewhere in that range, and you kind of understand when you first bought your houses, maybe back in the 90s or the 2000s or even before then, your rates were a lot higher. The problem today is not rates. The reason why houses aren't moving as fast, the reason why young people aren't able to buy houses as early as our generations were, is not a rate problem. It's an affordability problem. I'll talk about that a little more in the next slide. Higher rates, definitely affects affordability. But so does the price of the home, right? We're going to go over some creative ideas. We're going to talk about assumable loans. FHA and VA loans are assumable. We're going to talk about seller finance, and we're going to talk about sub two, which I never recommend. Stay away from it. If anybody tells you they want to buy your house sub two, tell them to pound sand and run away from them. Okay, so history of the market. This is what I wanted to talk about a little bit to understand the market, right? You got two lines here. You got the blue line that is essentially your interest rates, right? You got the red line, which is your housing affordability index, right? If you notice, these lines don't play together all the time, right? They go off on their own tangents. Housing affordability is affected by your interest rates, but even with interest rates lower than they have been historically, even still today, if you go over to the right, they're still pretty low compared to what they were back in the 80s, 90s. Um, the affordability is much worse. Higher is worse on the affordability, lower is better on the interest rate, right? So a lot of that has to do with the price of homes today, right? Housing has gotten really expensive. The cost compared to the affordability is really based on your average income for people versus what their house costs. And that gap keeps widening, and that's what's affecting the affordability quite a bit. Um, let's talk some facts and terms when we're talking about selling. So some tax facts, all right, some things that you may or may not have known about taxes, right? So when you sell your home, you are subject to federal capital gains on long term if as long as you own your house for more than a year. If you own it less than a year, that's a flipping thing, and that's a higher tax. But on long term, it's 20% for federal. California capital gains varies depending on your income for the year. The highest is 13.3%. And for most people selling a house with a lot of equity, that sale that year is probably going to throw you in that highest tax bracket. Just keep in mind. Married and selling, you're going to get a $500,000 tax write-off automatically. That'll apply to federal and California capital gains. Single and selling, it's going to be $250,000. Now, one thing to let you know, if you're married, were married, your spouse passed away, is if you sell within 2 years of your spouse passing away, you can still claim the 500. After that, you have to go to the 200. We want to talk about tax basis a little bit. Your tax basis is essentially what you paid for your home and what capital improvements you've put into it. So off to the right here, you can see this example, right? Original purchase price of the home, 500,000, capital improvements, 90,000. The adjusted tax base is going to be 590,000. Okay. Now, your tax basis overall, when we start talking about selling your house, so when you're doing your taxes the year that you sell your house, you're going to take a few more things into account. You're also going to take into account your sale price. So your sale price less your selling expenses, right? Your realized gain, in this case, let's say you're selling your house for $1 million. Your the selling expenses are going to be commissions to realtors, escrow fees, transfer fees, property taxes, things like that you have to pay out of selling your home. The amount realized is about $938,000 in that case, less your adjusted basis up here of 590 means you had a total gain of $348,000. Now, if you're married, you're going to write that all off. You get a $500,000 write off. You pay no taxes, right, on that gain. You get to take that money home. Whatever you're going to do with it, right? You're actually going to see you're going to get more than 348,000, but it's going to be your 590 plus your 348. Of course, you have to pay off a mortgage. That all comes into account. But from a gain standpoint, you're getting 348,000. If you're single, you might have to pay some taxes on that, depending, right? There are other tax strategies we're going to talk about. Let's talk real quick about this thing called step-up tax basis. And I've got a couple examples I'm going to give on that here as we move along. Now, your step-up tax basis is going to be is the appraised value of an asset at the time of the death of the owner. Now, God forbid someone has passed away that owns the house, but if they have, you get a step-up tax basis at the time of death. Now, if you're passing your home on to your children, this would apply to them. If you were married and your spouse passed away and you were both on the house, whether it's through a trust or through joint tenancy, whatever, you're going to be able to take a full step up in tax basis. So let's say your spouse passed away 2 years ago. Your house was worth $1 million then. It's worth 1.1 now. Your new step up tax basis is $1 million. Now, there are a few things that you want to do at that. If you didn't do it at the time of death, that's fine. But you do want to get an appraisal, right? A lot of people will go and take some screenshots of Zillow and all of that. That's great. And the IRS may be okay with that, but they're definitely okay with a professional appraisal, right? So I would spend the $500 to $700, get a professional appraisal. If you didn't do it 2, 3, 5 years ago, whenever that was, you can still hire an appraiser and we can help link you up with someone that can do that for you. Um, and they can do an appraisal based on what the house would have been worth at that point in time. Another thing we'll talk about here is 1031 exchanges. They are designed for investors, right? So a 1031 exchange is something that real estate investors do when they're renting out their houses to sell a home and buy it into a bigger asset. So let's say you sell it, you were renting out your single family home, you sold it, you bought an apartment building, you can take that money, it goes to an intermediary, all of your profit goes into an account, you never touch it, and there's some rules around it. You have to identify a property in 45 days. You have to close in 180 days. There's a bunch of rules around that, but you get to move that equity around without paying any taxes. It's a non-taxable event. You can take advantage of a 1031 if it's your primary residence, if you ran a business from your home, or if any portion of your home was rented for more than 2 years. Now, you can't take the whole value. You can take a percentage. So let's say the best example I like is a daycare. Say someone in the house, your spouse ran a daycare in the house. Pretty much if they ran that daycare on the first floor of the house, and there was a living room, a playroom that the kids played in, a kitchen the kids ate in. He or she cooked lunch, prepared things in the kitchen. Pretty much that whole first level of the floor, you're going to be able to use that in the 1031 exchange, right? Maybe there was a bedroom upstairs that, kids took naps in. You kind of get the idea, hopefully, there. By the way, if there are any questions, drop them into the Q&A. I should have said that at the beginning, and Paymon will kind of keep track of them, and then we'll answer them either during the session here or at the end, depending on how many we have. Now, let's talk about keeping your low property tax base. So property taxes is really important. And this is one of the things that I have found when I talk to clients that are thinking about downsizing scares them the most. A lot of people do not know that you can transfer your property tax base up to 3 times after you turn 55. So pretty much most people on this are probably either over 55 or they're getting creeping up there, getting pretty close, like me. Paymon's over 55. I'm not there yet. I'm still a baby. I got a few more years. But here's the gist on the property tax base. I'm going to tell you about this is a Prop 19 thing. So we want to protect Prop 19. We want to protect Prop 13 if you're a homeowner. And we'll talk a little bit more about that down the road here, some current events on Prop 13. But if your current home is say worth $2 million, but you paid 600,000 for it, your property tax base is going to be 600,000 plus the little percentages, the 1 or 2% that your property taxes increased every year. If your next home is say $1 million, right? You're downsizing. A lot of people think that they're going to pay property taxes on $1 million. That is not true at all. If you're over 55, and only if you're over 55, you pay taxes on your old property tax base. You can transfer. Now you have to transfer it. It's not automatic. You have to transfer that with the tax assessor. When you close on the home, you contact the tax assessor. You say you want to transfer your property tax base. That's something we can help you with. And we make sure that title and escrow help you with that whole process if you're working with us. So in this example, you sell your home for 2 million, you paid 600,000 for it. You downsize, you buy a new home for $1 million. You're living a mortgage-free life now. If you're not already, your new tax base still $600,000. Okay, your property taxes will not go up, other than the little percentage they go up every year already under Prop 13. So that's when you downsize. Now, I've had people say, "Hey, I've done pretty well. I want to upsize. I want to buy something bigger." You can still transfer your property tax base. However, it's going to go up. So the difference in the house price, right? I don't have an example to show for that. Let's say you sold a $2 million house, and your property tax base was 600,000. Now you bought a $2.5 million house. The difference between your old house and your new house, that 500,000 is going to get added on to your property tax base. Okay. And you can do this up to 3 times, again, only on your primary residence. All right, step up in tax base at death. We talked a little bit about this. I'm not going to hammer on it too much more. I probably covered it more than I should have in the earlier slide. I should have waited for this. But what it is essentially this is a fair market. It's all about the fair market value at time of death. This is the IRS code. It's 1014 if you need to look it up, right? And this can erase decades of unrealized capital gains, which is amazing, especially like I've got a lot of rental properties, right? I don't plan to ever sell them. I plan for them to go on to my kids. My kids know that if I pass away, they get the step up basis because I've taught them this at the time of my death. Uh, so this can help you if you're in that unfortunate situation that your spouse say passed away, you both own the home, you can do a step up tax basis, right? I gave an example before, but same kind of example. Original basis was 500,000. That's what you paid for the home. Now the value at the time of death was 1 million. Your new tax basis is $1 million. Now that's not for property taxes. Let's keep them straight. That's for capital gains taxes, right? What you're paying the IRS and what you're paying California. So I want to make sure you understand we're talking about two separate tax things. Property taxes, we want to keep our tax basis low. When we're selling, we for capital gains reasons, we want to have that tax basis, which are completely separate tax bases. We want that as high as possible. Okay. 1031 exchange strategy for homeowners. Here's a couple strategies for you. Okay. Let's say your spouse is alive and you can't do a step up tax basis and you have $1 million, $2 million in equity, and you're like, I'm going to get hammered on capital gains taxes. I'm not going to lie to you. You are going to get hammered on capital gains taxes. There are some strategies that you could use to do a 1031 exchange in that case. One of those would be rent your house out for 2 years, right? If you've rented your house out for 2 years, or you could rent out a portion of it. Maybe you've always wanted to run an Airbnb. You have a 5 bedroom house. It's just you and the wife. Want to run a bed and breakfast out of your house for a couple of years. You can write off the majority of the house at that point. Maybe 80, 90% of it, you could, do in a 1031 exchange. We talked about the partial business use already. The other thing, you could rent the whole house out. Here's an idea, right? Let's say you have a $2.5 million house in Poway, right? And you want to sell your home. You want to move closer to the beach, but you and the wife just want a 2 bedroom condo, right? Go move to the beach. Either buy that if you can, or rent it if you can without the equity in your house. Rent for 2 years while you have someone renting your house. Because if you bought your house back, if you have all this equity and your mortgage is low, you can easily cash flow very well renting that house out, right? Rent your house out for 2 years, and then you can do a 1031 exchange. Now, when you do that 1031 exchange, here's how it works when you downsize, right? And that's what's kind of can be a little tough there. So when you downsize, you have to, when you use a 1031, you have to reinvest all of the money, right? Or it all is taxable, right? So let's say you're downsizing and you're going from a $2.5 million house to a $1 million house, right? You can do a 1031 exchange, buy that $1 million house out of the 1031 exchange. You could then do a Delaware statutory trust, which is essentially a real estate, like it's like a REIT, right? That you'd buy in your 401k, right? To put the rest of the money into. You then get investment income from that on a monthly basis, or quarterly basis, depends on the one that you invest in. There's multiple Delaware statutory trusts out there. Another thing, you could take that money and buy a rental property, right? You could buy your primary house, you could buy a rental property and get cash flow from that as well. Depends if you want to be a landlord in your retirement years. So there are different strategies and different ways that you can avoid paying that capital gains tax and let the next generation deal with it, which, by the way, they'll get the step up tax value and they won't have to pay it anyway, unless they get a bunch of equity later on in their lives, but they at least get the step up from the time of your passing if you hand that down to your family or to someone in your family. Okay. And you can access that investment income either through later after the 1031. You have to leave it in there for a little bit of time, but then you could start accessing that money out of the Delaware statutory trust as well. And we can put you in touch with 1031 specialists if this is something that you're thinking about. We would sit down, have a meeting, get your ideas, then have another meeting with the 1031 specialist to make sure everything that you want to do is going to work from a tax standpoint. Seller financing. Here's another way to avoid paying a ton of capital gains tax right up front. Here's the scenario, right? You have your $2.5 million house in Poway. You have a mortgage right now of $250,000. I like to deal with round numbers. It makes me not lose my brain here, right? So you've got a mortgage of 250,000. Your house is worth 2.5 million, right? Someone wants to buy, or you put your house on the market and you put it up, offer seller financing. Now, what is seller financing? Seller financing is you are going to be the bank, right? We're going to go to a lawyer. We're going to get a note drawn up. No different than them signing a mortgage with a bank. They're going to sign a mortgage with you, right? So let's say you want 20% down. So what's 20% down? I should have used even more round math. 20% down is going to be what am I thinking? Like 700,000. So let's just say they're going to put down $500,000. All right. They're going to put down $500,000. That pays off your mortgage, right? So your mortgage is paid off. You're going to have to pay that off. That gives you $250,000 in your pocket, which, guess what? No matter what, you can write that off because you just sold your house and you only got $250,000, whether you're single or married. You can then write that off. You pay zero taxes on that. Okay. Plus, depending on your tax base, it might have wiped it out anyway. Now you're going to get mortgage payments every single month, right? What's the mortgage right now on $2 million? It's 14, $15,000, something like that, at like a 6 or 7%. But you're going to be a nice guy, nice gal, because you're offering seller financing. You're going to give it to them at 5%. Why are you going to give it to them 5%? Because you're going to get your house sold for the highest amount possible, right? Because you're offering a buyer a lower interest rate than what they can get out on the open market right now. And now they're not going to be able to nickel dime you down on your price. You're going to be able to get the full asking price without having to negotiate, right? So the and you can make these terms whatever you want to be. Maybe it's amortized over 30 years, but they've got to pay it off in 5, right? Maybe there's a balloon payment at the end. Why do you want to do this? Ongoing cash flow, number one. You're retired now. Let's say you're retired or you're getting ready to retire. You're going to get a big check every single month. You're going to pay taxes every year on what you're getting, right? But that tax burden is going to be far less than capital gains, especially if you're in retirement. All right. The promissory note is going to give you really great advantages from a protection standpoint, right? Let's say, God forbid, your cash flow goes away one day because they stop paying the mortgage. Well, you're the bank. You're going to foreclose, right? So you're going to contact your attorney and you're going to foreclose. It's going to be worth every penny you put into it because you're going to get your, maybe at this point, it's a $3 million asset. You're going to get your asset back. Plus, you're going to keep all the down payment that they put in, right? So obviously, no one hopes that someone loses their house, but you have very strong protections if you use this strategy. Hey, Payman, what was the question? Sorry, I saw you pop something in. You're on mute, bud. Uh, there you
I
go.
was just saying, in a seller financing situation, do you want to explain who actually holds title?
Yeah. So in a seller finance, the title's going to be held by the buyer, not by you anymore, right? However, it's just like the bank. The bank has a lien on the property. You're going to have a lien on the property exactly like a bank would have a lien on the property. So if they ever sell the house, that lien has to be satisfied. Okay. Um. Anyway, so you can command a higher price. So here's your advantage. You can command a higher price. You get ongoing cash flow. You get major tax advantages. You have really strong protection in this scenario. And it works with houses that have low mortgage balances. It's got to be your mortgage balance has got to be less than what people are going to put down for a down payment. So you have to be able to pay off the mortgage, unless you have the cash sitting around to pay off the mortgage. All right. Now let's talk about a couple use cases, right? So we've got homeowner profile number 1 here. This is a homeowner, owns a house in Rancho Bernardo. It's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 3,200 square feet. It's worth a little more than $2 million. Their current mortgage balance is $276,000. They refinanced in 2021, like everybody else did, for 30 years at a 3.31% APR, and it's a VA loan, right? So I said we were going to talk about assumable mortgages. VA loans and FHA loans are assumable. So if I'm listing this person's house, I'm going to put VA loan on there. Now, at this price, at the amount of equity, it doesn't make sense to assume the VA loan. They would have to get a huge mortgage anyway. But let's say you're shopping for a house, right? And maybe you don't want to use your cash to buy the next house and you want to take out a mortgage and you want to put your equity in the bank and make mortgage payments. You can search for, if you're a veteran or a non-veteran, you can actually assume a VA loan. FHA loans can be assumed by anyone. The way it works for a VA loan is the veteran does not regain their entitlement to use the VA loan again unless the mortgage is assumed by another veteran. Assumable loans means you still have to apply for the loan, you still have to get it, but you get the old interest rate, right? So moving on through the use case here, because I said I was going to talk about assumables and I completely forgot to talk about it. The original owners are married. They're still together. They're still in the house. They purchased it in 1998. these are their monthly expenses right now with that mortgage balance they refinanced. Obviously, their mortgage was not that high. Their insurance, their property taxes, it's a pretty good situation for them right now. But they want to sell. House is too much for them. Kids are all gone. They want something smaller, or they want to move to the beach, whatever the reason, or they're just tired of California for whatever reason, be it politics, be it the price of gas, be it whatever, the price of everything here, whatever the reason, they want to get the heck out of here. So, how's this going to work, right? We're selling the house, we're selling the house for 2,050,000. The selling expenses, this means, again, this is their real estate commissions. Honestly, I'll be honest with you, a lot of it's real estate commissions, right? And I can defend my commission all day long if somebody wants me to. I put, if you get a good agent, we're going to put at least 1% of the 3% that we're charging you back into selling your home. We're really only making a couple percent, because if we're properly, marketing your house, we're putting some investment into it. And there's always the risk that we don't sell your house, so it's money on the line for us. Amount realized. So amount realized is going to be 1.9 or so, 1.927. Their adjusted tax base is $775,000. And because of, if you looked at the last screen, what they had put into the house, so their total gains like 1.15 million, right? So they're making quite a bit of profit on selling this house. Now they get to file for the $500,000 exclusion, which means their taxable gain is now $652,000, right? So we're right here, $652,000. All right, they're going to get hit with 20% federal tax, and they're going to get hit with 13.3% because of what their income is for that year. For California means they're going to have to pay $217,000 in taxes, right? What's that look cash in pocket to them, right? So if you look at this kind of summary over here, sold the house for 2 million, selling expenses, mortgage payoff because they got to pay off that mortgage, and then they pay their taxes, right? They're walking away with 1.4 million. Is this a good or bad thing for this couple? I would say it's still a good thing, even though they had to pay taxes. Now, I'm a true-blooded American. I believe this country was founded on low taxes and paying the least amount of taxes as possible. So I hate to pay taxes. I want to pay the least amount of taxes as possible. I believe everyone should pay their fair share in taxes, and I pay my fair share in taxes. But if you're going to give me, a tax advantage, I'm going to take it. So they're they're getting 1.4 million. What's this mean to this couple? Well, that means they can go buy that $1 million condo or near the beach, closer to the beach, maybe not on the beach. But they can go get something smaller that works for them and still maybe have $400,000 or so in the bank after they cover all their moving expenses and everything else, be completely mortgage free. Okay? Let's talk about homeowner profile number 2. Same house, same costs, same mortgage balance. The only difference here is the spouse passed away in 2023. Okay. Now, don't use this as an example to wish anything bad on your spouse. Okay. Please, please, please don't. It's much better to have our spouse with us than get the gain. But you know what? If you lost your spouse and you're retired, you're losing some income, you're losing their social security, you're losing a lot of other stuff. So it's actually kind of nice that you get a little bit of a tax break if you're selling the house from a step up tax basis. So this example is going to show us what that effect has on that same scenario. Again, they got the same expenses every month, right? But how's this look for that couple, right? So the tax base, or not that couple, but for this widow or widower, right? They're the original cost plus home improvements really don't matter so much now because they're getting a step up tax basis because in 2023 that house appraised for 1.8 million, right? So when the husband passed. Now, when you look at, you know, everything she gets to write off, she's going to be able to write off for 250,000. She's going to write off her selling expenses and everything else. she's going to pay absolutely no taxes. So instead, this is her selling costs over here, right? Her results is she sold her house for 2,050,000. She realized 1.927. She had the adjusted basis of 1.8 million. And if you look down here, she pays no taxes. So she's going to walk away with the majority of that money. Okay? So she's going to essentially walk away with this 1.927. That's what she's walking away with, right? Instead of getting hit with the 200 and some $1,000s in taxes. Now, what can she do? Or what could either one of these scenarios do, quite frankly, right? You could purchase a house for 1.1 million, downsizing, whether it be a small house, smaller house, whether it be a condo, a townhouse, whatever it is you're looking to do. Let's say you have moving expensive of around $20,000. Paint. I mean, we're all getting older now. We don't want to. I just helped my son move back to college, and I helped him move her stuff down. And when he moved it back, I took my younger son to carry all the heavy stuff with him. I didn't do it. It's just not worth it's not worth blowing my back out again or anything. So yeah, so some movers total left in the bank. They've got about 446,000 left in the bank. This is obviously for the couple situation. Obviously the widow would have more left in the bank. Um, they get no mortgage now. Their insurance is going to be less because the house value is less, right? Property taxes is going to stay the same, right? Because they transferred their property tax base from that 678,000, 670 some $1,000 house. Total housing expenses less utilities is now only $1,000, right? So you can set yourself up pretty nice from a monthly expense standpoint by not having a mortgage, right? First of all, or having a little less insurance and moving that property tax basis. Okay, that kind of covers the in California stuff. Now, if you're looking to retire or move out of California and take that equity and run, right? Um, a lot of the scenarios the same, right? You're just going to move that money somewhere else instead of paying a $1.1 million house in Southern California. Sorry, I'm getting a little crackling from my hopefully that's coming through all right for everybody else. Um, Instead of paying $1 million here in SoCal, maybe you're going to move to Arizona or Utah or South Carolina, Florida, whatever, and you're going to spend half that or even a fourth of that, right? So you're going to have even more money in the bank. If you're selling your house here, we'd love to help you out, right? First of all, we'd love to help you sell the house. We then can refer you to our trusted movers, and we can even help you find your new house. Now, we're not licensed in other states, but we've worked with other realtors in other states, right? And even if it's a state we haven't worked with the realtor in, we as realtors and our broker that we work with, we can go out and really see who the good realtors are and who are the good ones to work with and who are not the good ones. We go to, I've had to approach several brokerages in the past, talk to them, say, hey, I've got somebody I'd love to refer over to you. Can you help them out? And we can also help kind of negotiate with them on what they're going to charge you on the buy side from a commission standpoint. Um, so you get one coordinated team from start to finish, and we will work directly. You can go get your own agent where you're moving, that's fine. But if you get one that, if you work with us through it, we'll coordinate very well with them and we'll all work together as one team to make your move as easy as possible. All right. I don't want to be a politician here, but I do want to bring one thing to everyone's attention. It is very important that we protect our investments in California, our homes, and that means protecting Prop 13, also Prop 19. But Prop 13 has been under repeated attack. This is all non-biased information that I had AI help me with because I wanted to make sure I kept it non-biased. It's been by one party, right? But why it matters, it's what keeps your tax rate at 1%, right? 1% of your home's value. That doesn't include Mello-Rooses, local Mello-Rooses and stuff, but it keeps your house at 1% and only allows increases of up to 2% per year, right? It's what keeps people in their homes as they get older and retire in California. most retirees would never be able to stay in their house because their property taxes would be ridiculous. If you think about it, if you bought your house for 500,000, now it's worth 2 million, and now your property taxes is quadrupled, that's more than the mortgage some of these folks were paying, or maybe even you're paying prior to the tax increase that would have happened if you lived in, quite frankly, I mean, I have investment properties in Ohio. They just reassessed me again, and I'm like, really? Come on. My taxes have doubled in the last 5 years because of the prices going up, the value going up with COVID. Now I'm still making good money on them. I'm not complaining too much, but I'm still complaining because it's a little bit ridiculous. We don't have most other states don't have these protections. It's necessary in California because our homes appreciate so much. So be careful of deceptive language is the biggest thing, right? They like to name these things like funding schools, tax fairness, and each one of these propositions. Well, by the way, none of them have passed. They've all failed. The information apparently is getting out there pretty well to the homeowners. But as we get into more of a renter society versus homeowner society, I do worry about Prop 13. So keeping it strong means, it takes 2/3 voter requirement for special taxes, which is good. But reject any measure that weakens Prop 13. I don't know why anyone would ever vote for their taxes to go up. I really have never understood that. The state gets enough money; they just need to do a better job managing it. There are some things coming up. There's a prop on the ballot in November. There's Proposition 43. It does require a 2/3 vote for local special initiatives, but this does add some language to help strengthen Prop 13. So you actually want to vote yes on this. Also, yes to 42, which blocks new personal property taxes, which could essentially open up the ability for the state of California to start taxing you on your unrealized equity in your home. And you don't want that, right? So if you've got $2 million in your house in equity, that could eventually allow, just by the legislature, not by the voter, to go out and for them to say, hey, we're going to tax you 1%, 2%, 10% on your unrealized gains. So just make sure you're paying attention to what's going on in the political landscape. All right, from a summary standpoint, how am I doing on time? I'm looking pretty good here. You worked hard for your home. All right, it's probably, especially in California, with the amount of equity that most of you have on this, it's probably one of the biggest, chunks of cash that you have, right? And it's sitting in your house. With the right strategy, you can live mortgage free. If you're not already, some of you on here I know are already mortgage free, right? You can pay less for your insurance, keep your property tax payment low like it is, and you can put cash in the bank or into other investments, right? If you have thought about being a landlord, investing in real estate, come talk to me, hit me up on it. I'm always happy to talk about that. It's free advice. And obviously, if you're going to buy stuff here, I'd love to help you. And then, take advantages of transferring your property tax base. Make sure you're getting your capital gains right off if you're selling your home. If 1031, if you've done a business in your house, or you're interested in renting your house for a couple of years to avoid some of that capital gains tax you might pay. We're happy to help you out with that. Also, if you're not going to hire us, make sure you hire a realtor who understands these principles and that they're going to earn their commission. All right. There's too many of our peers out there just get your listing. They come in and they say, oh, yeah, you think your house is worth, let's say you think your house is worth 2.5 million. Really, it's worth 2.3. They'll say, "Oh, of course, your house is worth 2.5. Let's list it at 2.5." They get your listing, and then 3 weeks later, they're like, "Ooh, the market shifted, and we need to lower it to 2.4. That's why we're not getting anybody through." Another 3 weeks go by. Yeah, we're still not getting any showings. We probably need to go down to 2.35, and they just keep bringing you down until they get to finally what they should have told you if they were honest in the first place and told you what your house was really worth, what a real sales strategy looks like to get your house and get multiple bids. So, So make sure you hire someone that's going to tell you the truth and isn't afraid to tell you no. Okay. I had a buddy of mine used to sell helicopters, and these rich folks buying these helicopters, very wealthy people, when they would ask them, how do I hire a pilot? He would say, hire the pilot that's going to tell you, no, we're not flying today. Okay. That same thing applies when you're buying when you're hiring a realtor. Hire a realtor to say, no, that's a bad idea. We should do it this way. This is what's going to work. This is what's going to work. The ones that are just yes people, you're going to be regretting it. So, up next, your free offer. If you scan this QR code or go to the URL below, you can sign up for a monthly free uh, home valuation. It's got 3 data sources. Those data sources come from Cotality, Quantarium, and Atom. We pay for this every month, and we can only have so many people using it, but we just upped our number of people that we can have in there for today. Anyway, it's kind of like monitoring your credit. Like you monitor your credit score, you get your Experian, Equifax, your TransUnion. This is monitoring your home value. And you'd be surprised when you look at this. They're different, right? And they're different from Zillow. They might be different from Redfin. One might say your house is, 1.8 million. The other one might say 2 million. The truth of the matter is when we sit down and look at it, there's only so much you can get from uh from raw data numbers and AI these days. When like Paymon and I, we go look at a house, we're going to come out and look at your house. We're going to say, oh, wow, you did fabulous upgrades. Oh, you didn't just do the Lowe's or Home Depot upgrade. You got some real good stuff here. You have real hard wood. You have all these different things that increase the value of your home. Sometimes those houses take longer to sell because you got to find the right buyer, but sometimes waiting isn't so bad if you have a higher end home. Anyway, I enjoyed today. Hopefully everyone got that QR code. If not, we will send out a link to everyone probably tomorrow with the recording. Once the recording's done and queued up and everything with Teams, we'll send out the recording with a link to your free offer. With that being said, if you are looking to sell your home, if you want to have a private consultation with us, that's also free. Just give me a call, shoot me an email, and we'd be happy to sit down with you. I am the lead agent. Paymon is also one of our I'd say more senior, and I mean that mainly from an age standpoint. Agents, but we can sit down with you. We can have a conversation. We do work as a team a lot of times to help you out and give you the information that you're looking for, or sometimes the information you don't want to hear. But we'll always be honest and truthful and shoot straight. So I'll leave this up here for a couple seconds, and with that, are there any questions? I can unmute people too if you want to ask a question. Wow, silence is golden. Hopefully that was understandable. I do see a couple of friends on here, so people I know. So expect a call from me if you know me personally. I want a little feedback on how this went today. All right. Well, if that's it, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you everyone for being here. Sorry if I keep looking to the right. It's because I'm looking at myself in Paymon because I've got you on the screen over here and I've got my presentation in front of me. So if that's been awkward, I apologize. All right. Well, everyone, it was great talking to everyone. If you have any questions, you want to reach out to us directly, please do so. Enjoy that. Enjoy the report. By the way, I already have your email, obviously, so I'm not going to spam you any more than I already do. If you'll just get these from us. I try to